It is 11 at night, and the canvas is breathing. The wind comes down the valley off the mountains and pushes the tent wall in. And it goes slack. And it pushes in again. Slow. Ava, you have been listening to it for an hour. 4 people are asleep inside that canvas. Close enough to touch. Along the ditch bank, there are 60-some camps like it, and every lamp on the whole length of it went out before 10. Because coal oil is money. Water is moving in the irrigation ditch 40 feet from where you are lying. It does that all night. It does not stop. 400 yards. The other way there is a cotton field, standing white and ready to pick. Every family on this water is waiting for the same sound. An engine coming up off the county road, somewhere around 4 in the morning. The truck holds 30. There are close to 200 people camped along this ditch. You are lying in the back seat of your father's car with your brother's foot against your leg, running the same arithmetic you have run every night for 14 months. And you already know how much sleep you are going to get, which is not much. This afternoon at 5 o'clock, your family turned off the county road and came down onto this ditch bank for the first time. Your father takes the car down off the county road in low gear and stays in low gear for the next 11 minutes. The track along the ditch bank is dry and packed, and a man could drive it at 20. He goes at a walk because everybody in the car is looking, and because you get one pass at this. Once the stakes are in, the light is spent. The ditch runs north and south for about half a mile, with the camps strung along the east side of it, and the cotton starts on the west side, past the water, behind a 3-wire fence. Somebody dropped a plank across the ditch a long time ago, and it has been walked on so much, the middle of it is worn pale. You are in the back with the little ones. Your brother is up on his knees, with his arms over the front seat. Nobody talks the whole 11 minutes, because everybody has a job, and the job stopped needing discussion a long way back. Your father drives and reads the ground. Your mother reads the camps. You watch for what is open. The ground comes first, since that is the part you cannot fix later. You want flat and you want high. And out here, high means about 18 inches. The whole valley floor lies over like a table. Your father takes it slow and looks for the places where the dirt has a smooth, washed look, because that is where the water went the last time they ran the ditch, and they will run it again. He looks for cracks, dirt that dried out of standing water cracks in a pattern. And once you know that pattern, you can see it from a moving car. He looks for hardpan under the dust, because a stake in soft ground pulls out in one night of wind, and then you are up at 2 in the morning holding a corner down with your hands. Then distance, and there are 2 of them, and they pull against each other. You want to be near the water, since you are going to carry every drop your family drinks, cooks with, and washes in. 100 yards each way with 2 full buckets comes to something over a mile a day. You want to be far from the trench. There is no trench on this bank. Exactly. There are 2. One dug at the north end and one in the middle, screened with brush. And past those, the men use the willows down at the low end. And everybody knows which willows. The wind comes down the valley at night out of the southeast, which means you do not camp northwest of any of it. And you can find all of it from a car by watching where nobody is pitched. Your mother is doing the other half of it. A camp tells you how long it has been standing. A family that came in yesterday has a bare patch and a car. A family 3 weeks on this ground has a path worn to the water. A windbreak of brush stacked on the weather side. A line strung between 2 poles with wash on it. And a swept place in front of the tent where the dirt has gone smooth and hard. You want to be near the ones who have been here a while. They know when the ditch runs and which farmer sends a man down. And a family that has held ground 3 weeks has not been run off, which tells you something about whoever owns this bank and how he feels about people on it. You do not want to be downwind of a camp with a sick child in it. Your mother finds that out by looking at the wash on the line. A family with a sick child has different things drying. About 4 minutes in, you understand there is not much open. Full up is not a sign anybody posts. It is a look. Every flat place on the high side has canvas on it. The tents are 8 and 10 feet apart, with cars nosed in between them. And the gaps that are left are gaps for a reason. Too small, too close to the trench. One of them has a wagon axle half buried in it, and a man would break a stake trying. Coming past the middle, you go by a tent that is pitched wrong. It is new canvas. That is the first thing. Nobody out here has new canvas. And this piece is still the color canvas comes. It is pitched with the long wall square into the southeast. The guy lines are slack enough to see from a moving car. And there is a girl standing beside it in a dress that is too good, holding a pot, looking at the ditch like she is trying to decide something about it. There is a boy with her about the same age. 19, maybe 20. The pair of them. Your father looks at that tent for about 2 seconds as the car goes by. He says, "That will be down by morning." He does not say it unkindly. It is the tone of a man saying, "A fan belt is going." Your mother says they got here today. Nobody says anything else about it. The light is going, and it goes fast down here in late October, faster than it went at home. The mountains on the east side run from brown to purple to nothing inside of half an hour. At the south end of the run, there is one piece of open ground about 30 feet across. Your father stops the car, and everybody looks at it. It is open because it sits low. From here, you can see the dish of it, maybe a foot deeper than the ground on either side, with the smooth, washed look all over the bottom and the cracks running in that pattern. Your father gets out and walks into the middle of it and turns around once. You get out and go with him. He does not tell you what he is looking at, because you were at Firebaugh in July. And at Firebaugh, a family 2 rows over pitched in a place exactly like this one, and the ditch ran on a Thursday night, and their bedding was under 2 inches of water at 4 in the morning. He walks to the north edge where the dish comes up to meet the higher ground, stops on the rim, and puts his heel down twice. There is room on that rim for a tent. There is not room for a tent and a car and a stove and a place to sit. You do the thing you always do, which is walk it off before he asks. 11 feet of good rim, and then it falls away. 11 feet is enough for the canvas. If the back wall sits right up against the drop and nobody cares about the guy lines on the low side, you tell him 11. He says, "That will do it." And he says it in a way that means both of you know what you are doing, which is taking a place that is not good enough, because it is 4:45. So the tent goes on the rim. The car goes on the high ground behind it, broadside to the southeast to break the wind. The stove goes in the lee of the car. The low ground stays empty and stays yours. And if the ditch runs, this week you will have a pond 11 feet from where your family is sleeping, and the bedding will stay dry. 4 minutes. It is the most important thing anybody in your family does today. The woman at the next camp comes over while your father is getting the poles off the rack. She is somewhere over 40, and she has a baby on her hip, and she is not curious about you in any way you can find. Her people have been on this ditch since the 5th. The ditch ran on a Monday, 2 weeks back, she says, and she points at the low ground with her chin. And you tell her you saw it. And she says, all right then. Then she tells you the thing. A man came down yesterday evening and said there might be picking Wednesday. Truck comes early. 4 o'clock? Maybe before. Your mother asks how many the truck takes. She says 30. If it is the same truck, nobody says anything about the 200 people on this ditch. Your mother says thank you, and the woman goes back to her own fire. Your father sets the first stake. The sun is off the field on the other side of the water, and the cotton has gone from white to gray. The car is a 1926 Chevrolet sedan, with the paint gone off the hood, in a long streak where a rope rubbed for 2,000 miles. It is not a truck. Your father has said that out loud maybe 40 times since March. Always in the same flat way. And what he means is that a truck would carry a load properly, and this thing carries it the way a man carries a bedroll under one arm and a suitcase in the other hand. There is a rack built on the back out of 2x4s and one length of angle iron, bolted through the body, put together in a yard in Amarillo in one afternoon. There is a box on each running board. The rear seat is still in it, which most families would have pulled out for the room. And it is still in it because you and your brother sleep on it. Unloading has an order, and the order took 11 camps to work out. Canvas first, off the top of the rack, since nothing else has anywhere to be until the canvas is up. Poles with it. The stakes come out of a nail keg lashed to the rack, and there are 14 of them. 4 steel and 10 wood, and you count them every single time, out loud, because a stake left in the dirt at Firebaugh is a stake you do not have in Bakersfield. Then the bedding, 3 quilts, 2 blankets, and a mattress your mother made in the 2nd month out of a cotton tick and about 40 pounds of picked cotton that did not go over the scale. She has never once mentioned where that cotton came from. Then the boxes, 5 apple crates. And the crates are the furniture. 2 of them stacked to make a table. One turned open side out is a cupboard. And it is the only cupboard your mother has had since the spring. 1 holds the cooking. The 5th holds what is left. Then the water can, 5 gallons, galvanized, with a wooden plug your father whittled when the cap went missing in New Mexico. Then the stove, a 2-burner kerosene job with 1 burner that works and 1 that has to be lit twice. Then the skillet and the 2 pots and the coffee pot and the tin plates, which travel inside the pots, which travel inside the skillet, which travels wrapped in a flour sack so it does not ring against the boxes for 2,000 miles. Then your father's toolbox. That comes off last and goes inside the tent. And it is the heaviest single thing in the car. Hand saw. brace, and a set of bits, 2 hammers, a square, chisels, a plane with a rosewood handle. He has not fixed a piece of farm machinery with any of it since March of 1936. He has fixed other people's cars with about a third of it and been paid for maybe half of those. And once at a camp near Delano, he traded 2 hours with the brace and bits for a gallon of gasoline. Your mother asked him about the plane one time, in Arizona, when the money was under $2. She asked it carefully. He said a man does not sell his tools, and that was the whole of it. And the plane is still in the box. You are on the little ones. Your sister is 5, and she gets down off the running board by herself. The baby is 3, and he does not. And you reach in and get him under the arms and swing him out and stand him in the dirt. And your mother says, mind them both. And you say yes. That has been the job since the day you left. Watch too. Help with everything else. And pick a full sack when there is picking. Because you are 17 and a hand is a hand. Your brother is 10 and he handles stakes and rope. And he is good at it. And he knows he is good at it. Some of what comes off the car is not for using. There's a photograph in a wooden frame, wrapped in flannel, of your father's people in front of a house in 1914. It rides in the box with the bedding and it comes out at every camp and stands on the crate cupboard. It got broken once in Arizona, and the glass has a crack across one corner. There is your mother's good dress, folded in newspaper, dark blue. She has not put it on since a funeral in Sallisaw. There is not one place on this ditchbank a woman would wear it. And it comes off the car and goes in the box under the bedding at every single camp. There is a child's chair with 2 legs and a piece of a third. The front legs busted off in a wreck of a load outside Flagstaff. Your mother would not leave it in the ditch. It gets propped against a crate, and the baby will sit in it, and he will not sit still anywhere else. And that is the whole reason, and it is reason enough. And there is a flour sack about half full of seed corn, tied with a string, riding under the front seat. Nobody in your family has mentioned that sack since May. It came out of the crib at home. It is good corn. The corn your father saved out in the fall of 1935, and there has been no ground to put it in for 2 years, and there is no ground now. It has crossed 4 states. In August, somebody at a camp near Shafter asked your mother what was in the sack, and she said feed and changed the subject. Your brother comes back from the rack with the last 2 stakes and stops and looks up the bank. He says the new people put their tent up backwards. Your mother says, never mind. He says it again anyway, quieter, to you. And he is right. And there is nothing in his voice but the pleasure of a 10-year-old boy knowing a thing somebody else does not. By 6 o'clock, the canvas is up, the boxes are in, the stove is lit, and your mother has water on. You walk around behind the tent and stand where the low ground starts. And from there, the whole run of the ditch bank goes north in front of you. There are fires now, 20 or 30 of them along half a mile of water, and a lamp here and there inside a tent, making the canvas glow like a paper lantern. Past the ditch, the cotton is a gray field going black. There is a sound coming off this camp that you learned in the first month and could pick out anywhere. And it is a lot of tin, buckets, plates, guns, a stove lid dropped, 200 people getting supper out of galvanized ware. And it carries. Your father is at the front of the car with the hood up on one side. He is not fixing anything. He does that every evening. Looks at the engine for a minute before dark. And it is a habit left over from when there was a tractor. Then he drops the hood, gets in the driver's seat, and turns the key one click without starting it. You are standing 8 feet away with the little one on your hip. The needle sits a hair off the pin, under a quarter, so call it 3 gallons. And the gauge on this car reads high, and everybody in the family knows it reads high. If the picking tomorrow is at a field 8 miles out, you can get there and back. If it is the Wasco place, where the man said there was work last week, it is closer to 22 miles each way. Your father sits there and looks at the needle for a good 10 seconds. Then he switches it off, gets out, and shuts the door with the flat of his hand so it does not bang, because the baby is going down. And he walks over to the stove and asks your mother if the coffee is on. The tent is not one tent. It is a wall tent that has been a wall tent since Amarillo, plus a piece of canvas off a hay tarp, plus a cotton sack split open and sewn on where the ridge went out in New Mexico, 12 feet by 9 when it is upright. And it has been upright maybe twice. Your father runs the ridge. 2 poles at the ends, 1 in the middle because the ridge sags. And the middle pole is a length of pipe that came off a windmill in the panhandle. Your brother sets stakes. He is 10, and he is faster at it than you are. And neither of you has ever said so out loud. Going up on ground you do not trust changes the order of things. The back wall goes tight against the drop where the rim falls off into the low ground, which means the back guy lines are short and they go into the slope at a bad angle. A bad angle is what you have. You drive those 2 stakes at a leaning away from the pull, all the way down until the head is flush with the dirt. And then your brother sets a rock on each one. And the rock does not do much, and you do it anyway. The front and the sides get the long lines and the 4 steel stakes, because the wind comes at the front and the southeast side. Every corner grommet on this canvas has torn out at least once. Your mother worked out the fix in the first month. You do not sew the grommet back. You take a smooth stone about the size of a walnut, or a pinacone, or, in Arizona, a doorknob, and push it up into the corner of the canvas from the inside, so the canvas wraps around it and makes a knob. Then you tie the guy line around the neck of that knob and pull it down. The canvas holds the stone, and the stone holds the rope, and it will not tear, because the pull spreads over the whole ball of it instead of one brass ring. There are 4 stones in the corners of this tent, and one of them has come across 4 states. Then the ditch around the tent. Your father cuts it with a short-handled shovel that rides in the running board box. 4 inches deep, 6 wide, dug about a foot out from the canvas on the 3 sides that matter, with the spoil thrown up against the tent wall to make a low berm. 20 minutes. And it is the reason your family did not lose the bedding at a camp outside Merced in September when a thunderstorm came off the mountains at 2 in the morning. The dirt goes on the inside edge, packed with the back of the shovel. On the low side, the trench runs out and down toward the dish. So, if water comes, it goes where you sent it. Then the floor. Bare ground is cold, and bare ground is where things come up out of. You put down what you have, and what you have is 4 flour sacks split open, and 1 cotton sack laid over the ground in the sleeping half of the tent. Overlapped. Newspaper goes under the sacking, not for softness. For the ground, dirt, at 3 in the morning in October, pulls the heat right out of a person lying on it, and a layer of paper puts something between a body and that dirt. And it costs nothing. And there is always somebody in a camp who has yesterday's paper. Your mother lays the paper herself, and she does it a particular way. Whole sheets, flat, no crumpling, and she runs her hand over each one before the next goes down. You have watched her do this at 11 camps, and you have never once seen her read any of it. The mattress goes on the sacking. Cotton thick, 7 feet by 4. Gone flat in the middle and lumped at the edges, the way a picked cotton mattress goes. She beats it every camp. She stands it up and works it with the flat of both hands from the bottom to the top, and it comes back a little. Then the wall. A rope runs from the middle pole to the back corner at about shoulder height, and on that rope hang your father's other shirt, a pair of overalls, a coat, and one of the quilts. That is the wall. Behind it is where your mother and father sleep. The other side is the little ones. You and your brother are in the car. That has been the arrangement since March, and there are 2 reasons, and only one of them gets said. The one that gets said is that the tent is not big enough for 6. The one that does not get said is that a camp with nobody in the car is a camp where somebody comes at 2 in the morning and takes the gasoline out of it with a hose and a can. Beds get made in an order, and the order is about heat. The 2 little ones go in the middle. Your sister on the inside, the baby next to her. And there is a reason for that too, which is that he wakes and she does not. Your mother goes on the outside of the baby. Your father goes on the far side against the wall, since he is the one who gets up if something is wrong outside, and he should not have to climb over anybody. The heavy quilt goes crossways over all 4. 1 blanket goes underneath, on top of the mattress, because a blanket under is worth more than a blanket over when the cold is coming up out of the ground. Your mother says that about twice a winter, to whoever is new in the next camp, and it is the only advice you have ever heard her give unasked. You and your brother get the 3rd quilt and 1 blanket and the back seat. The seat is 4 feet long. Your brother is short and you are not. Shoes come inside. All of them. Every night. They go along the back wall of the tent in a row, and the 2 pairs belonging to the car. People come into the car. Nobody in your family has ever had shoes taken. A family at Shafter had 2 pairs go off a step in August, and it went through that camp inside an hour. And after that, everybody's shoes came in at night, up and down the whole row. And it has stayed that way in every camp since. And nobody talks about it. The water can lives inside the tent by the door. The stove sits outside in the lee of the car, with a piece of sheet iron propped on 2 rocks to break the wind off the burner. It is not a fire. It is a kerosene stove, and it will not throw a spark. And that is the one comfort about it. Because up and down this ditch there are open fires, and there is canvas. The crate cupboard goes at the head of the mattress, with the photograph on top of it, and the crack across the corner of the glass turned to face the wall. Your mother turns it that way every camp. Around 6:45, Your brother comes past with an armload of brush for the windbreak, and stops and looks up the bank. You look where he is looking. The new people are trying to put their guy lines out on the southeast side, and the wind has come up the way it does at dusk. And the whole long wall of that new canvas is standing out like a sail, with the boy hanging off a rope, trying to hold it. It goes over. Not violently. The near end lets go and the ridge folds, and the whole thing settles down sideways in about 4 seconds, with a sound like somebody shaking out a bed sheet. And the girl in the good dress is standing in the middle of it, with the pot still in her hand. Your brother makes a noise. It is not a laugh exactly. It is the sound a 10-year-old makes when something happens that he predicted out loud an hour ago and nobody listened to him. And he gets it out through his nose and then puts his hand over his mouth. You get about 2 seconds of holding it, and then you are gone too. It comes up out of you all at once, and you have to turn around and face the low ground with your hand over your face. And your shoulders are going, and your brother is bent over the brush pile making a wheezing sound. And neither of you can look at the other one. Your mother says your name from the stove. One word, and there is nothing behind it. Your father goes up the bank. He goes up without a word to anybody and gets the ridge pole out of the mess and holds it while the boy restakes the windward side at a lean and shows him the thing about slack in a guy line, and then walks back down. He is gone about 12 minutes. When he comes back, your brother says something to him about how the tent went over. Still grinning, wanting to be in on it. Your father says, everybody puts a tent up wrong once. Your brother says, did you? And your father says he put one up in the wind at Needles with the door on the weather side, and it filled up like a sack and took him out of it backwards. Your brother laughs, and your father does not laugh. But the corner of his mouth goes, and it stays gone a second longer than it needs to. And that is the closest thing to a good time anybody in your family has had in 3 days. By 7, the whole thing is done. Dark, lamp lit and turned low. You come out and sit on the running board and look down the ditch bank. Every tent on this water is lit the same way. One lamp, low, and the canvas takes that light and holds it. So the whole camp is a line of dull yellow shapes along the water for half a mile, and not one of them is bright enough to see by. There is a truck at the north end with a family living under the bed of it. Canvas hung off both sides, and it has been there long enough to have a brush windbreak. There's a place about 200 feet down that is just a car, with the doors standing open and quilts hung on the doors. And there are people in it. Your family has a room, 9 feet by 12. The floor is dirt and paper and flour sacking. One wall is clothing on a rope, and it will come down in 18 minutes when somebody says, go. You went inside and stood up in the middle where the ridge is high enough, and you did it on purpose. And you are not going to tell anybody you did. The ditch is concrete lined for the first stretch, and then it is not. Up at the north end, where the head gate is, there is about 300 feet of concrete, and past that, it is dirt bank with weeds growing down into it and willows on the far side. The water moves through at a walking pace, 4 feet across and maybe 2 deep, and it is brown. And it is the same brown all day and all night. That is the water. There is no well on this bank. There is a pump at a farmhouse 1.5 miles up the county road, and the man there let people fill cans in September. And then a lot of people came, and he stopped. So you take it out of the ditch, and there is a way to take it out of the ditch. You go upstream, not down, upstream of your own camp, upstream of the next camp, and as far up as your legs are willing to go. Every camp on this bank puts something in this water. Wash water goes back in. Men wash in it. Below the middle trench, it is a different proposition, and nobody who has been here a week draws drinking water below the middle trench. Your family goes about 200 yards up, past 4 camps, to a place where the bank is cut down and a person can reach the edge without going in. You do not dip the bucket flat. You take it in on its side, upstream, moving with the water, and you lift before it fills so you never touch bottom. Bottom is silt. Silt in the bucket is silt in the pot. And it settles out in an hour, and then there is a 1/4 inch of gray in the bottom of everything. 2 buckets, 3/4 full, because full buckets slop, and 100 pounds of water over 200 yards of dry track is not a thing a person does twice. Twice a day, sometimes 3 times. Then it sits. The can and both buckets sit inside the tent with a piece of board and a flour sack over them, and they sit at least an hour before anybody uses them. And in that hour, the silt goes down and the water on top clears to about the color of weak tea. You pour off the top. You do not tip it. You dip it. So, you do not stir what has settled. The last 2 inches of every bucket goes on the ground outside or goes for washing. That is everything you can do to it without heat. Heat costs kerosene. The can has a little under half of 5 gallons in it. Kerosene runs 15 cents a gallon at the store in town, and $11 has come into this family in the last 2 weeks. The stove burns it. The lamp burns it. Cooking has to happen, and there is no getting around any of it. Beans need 2 hours of heat, or they are not food. Coffee has to boil. The bread has to fry. Boiling drinking water on top of all of that means running the burner hard for a long stretch on something that does not fill anybody up, and every minute of it comes out of the same can. So it goes like this in your family, and it has gone like this since Arizona. The little ones drink boiled. Your sister who is 5, and the baby who is 3. Every drop. Your mother boils it in the coffee pot at night after supper, while the stove is hot anyway. And it cools in a covered lard pail overnight. And in the morning, it goes in a fruit jar, and it is theirs. Your brother drinks boiled when there is enough. You and your mother and your father drink out of the bucket. Nobody in your family has ever said one word about this arrangement out loud. Not once. Your mother never announced it. Your father never agreed to it. And you have never asked why the jar is not for you. It is a rule. And it works the way a rule works when everybody made it at the same time without talking. Washing is a different question. Ditch water is fine for washing. And that is the one generous thing about it. Clothes go in a galvanized tub with ditch water and a piece of soap on the days there is time, which is not every day and not close to every day. The little ones get washed in a basin every evening. Face, hands, feet especially. The dust down here is fine as flour, and it gets into everything and it works into skin. The baby wants to play at the ditch. Every child on this bank wants to play at the ditch, since it is the only thing moving in the whole landscape, and there are willows. You do not let him. That is your job specifically, not because of drowning, though there is drowning. And a child went into a ditch near Arvin in the spring, and everybody in this valley heard about it. It is the other thing. He puts his hands in it, and then his hands go in his mouth. And you have watched him do it. And you have gotten to where you can see it coming, about 2 seconds out. So the willows are off limits, and the ditch is off limits. And the whole world, for a 3-year-old, is the 50 feet between the tent and the car. Your sister has been coughing for 3 days. It is not much. A dry cough that comes 6 or 8 times an hour, and more at night. And she has no fever. And she ate her supper. Tonight your mother is at the stove, and your sister coughs 3 times in a row inside the tent. Your mother sets the spoon down on the sheet iron. She does not go in. She stands there with her hand flat on the top of the stove where the heat is coming off it, which is not a thing anybody does on purpose. And she looks at the canvas. It is maybe 4 seconds. The cough does not come again. She picks the spoon back up and goes on with what she was doing. And the whole thing is over before your father, 8 feet away, with the hood up, has finished whatever he is looking at. You saw it. You were sitting on the crate with the baby against your shoulder, and you saw the spoon go down, and you saw the hand go flat on the stove. And you have been carrying it since. Because your mother does not do that. Your mother has laid a child in a tent in Arizona with 103 degrees of fever and gone right on making supper with her hands steady. She put her hand on the back of your sister's neck twice this afternoon and did not say a thing either time. And that was the ordinary kind of checking, and you did not think about it after. The spoon going down is different. You do not ask her. There is nothing to ask. If you ask, she says it is nothing. And then it is a thing that got said out loud. And then it is in the tent with everybody. Nobody on this bank talks about typhoid. You have heard the word maybe 4 times in 14 months, and every time it came from somebody who had just come out of a camp where it was. What people say instead is that a camp is clean or a camp is not. This one is somewhere in between. There are 2 trenches, and somebody has been putting dirt in them. And the willows at the low end are a problem. And there is no lime anywhere on this bank, because lime costs money and nobody owns this ground. The water goes on the stove at 8. Your mother fills the coffee pot from the bucket and sets it on the burner that works. And it sits there, and the flame is that flat blue kerosene flame that never looks like it is doing anything. You sit on a crate beside her with the baby against your shoulder, and he is going down. She watches the pot. She says, without looking over, that if there is money Wednesday, she is going to get a bar of soap and a box of matches and a can of milk, in that order. You say, all right. That is the whole conversation. The pot starts to knock, and then it goes. And she holds it there a good while, longer than she needs to. The smell of kerosene comes off the burner and mixes with the smell of the water. And out past the tent, the ditch keeps moving in the dark at a walking pace, 4 feet across, going somewhere. Supper starts before dark, and it starts with what is in the crate. Your mother goes through it the same way every evening. She does not take things out. She kneels in front of the open side of it with the lamp behind her and looks, and her hands stay on her knees. and it takes about a minute. Tonight the crate holds this flour in a cloth sack, maybe 8 pounds left of a 24-pound sack bought on the second. Beans, pintos, a little over 2 pounds, in a lard pail with a lid. Salt pork, a piece about the size of a man's hand, wrapped in butcher paper, gone translucent. Lard in a jan, about a third. Salt, a tin of baking powder. Coffee, ground, used once already, and drying on a piece of newspaper on top of the crate. A can of tomatoes, half a dozen onions in a paper sack, 2 of them going. That is the whole larder of 6 people. The beans have been soaking since morning in a covered pot in the tent, and they went on the stove at 4 when the family got here, and they have been going for 3 hours. Beans are the engine of the whole thing. 2 pounds of pintos is 15 cents. And cooked out with a piece of salt pork and an onion, they will feed 6 people twice. And there is no other way to buy that much food for that much money in the state of California. The trouble with beans is the 2 hours. 2 hours of a burner is a lot of kerosene. So they cook once and get eaten twice. And nobody in this family has had beans that were not either fresh out of the pot or a day old since sometime in the spring. Then the bread. And the bread is where your mother shows what she is. Flour, a spoon of baking powder. Salt, a spoon of lard worked in with her fingers. Water from the bucket. She mixes it in a tin basin, and she does not measure any of it. She has been making this exact bread since she was 14 years old, and her hands know the weight of it. It goes in the skillet in lard. 1 big round, about 10 inches across. And it cooks on one side and gets turned with a knife and a hand. That is the bread. No yeast, no oven, nothing that takes time. You do not have. It comes out about 3/4 of an inch thick, with a crust on both faces. And it is heavy. And it is hot. And 6 people can eat it standing up with their hands. While it is in the skillet, your brother comes back from the water with the buckets and sets them down and says, "The new people are cooking on a wood fire." Your mother says that is their business. He says, "They have got it going right up against the canvas." Your father looks up. Your brother says, and the boy keeps stepping over it. Then he does it. He gets up off the crate and does about 4 steps of a man stepping across a fire he does not want to walk around. High knee, arms out, and he holds the last one just a hair too long. And he is doing it dead serious, like he is reporting the weather. You laugh. Out loud. The first one in a while. Your father says something about how somebody ought to tell him. And your mother says somebody will. And your brother sits back down, looking pleased with himself, in a way he is trying not to show. And the whole thing lasts maybe 10 seconds, and then supper is ready. Your mother cuts the bread in 6 pieces with a knife. On the board, that is a crate lid. She does not cut it in 6 equal pieces. Nobody in the family has ever remarked on this out loud. Not you, not your father, not your brother who is 10 and notices everything. The little ones get theirs first, and they get small pieces. And that is not shorting them. That is because a 3-year-old will not eat 1/4 of a skillet of bread, and the rest of it would end up on the ground. Your father gets the biggest piece. He gets it because tomorrow he pulls a sack, And the arithmetic of a man dragging 100 and some pounds of cotton up a row in the sun is not the same arithmetic as anybody else's in this family. And everybody knows it, including your mother, who also pulls a sack. You get the second biggest. Same reason. You are 17, and you pick. Your brother gets what a 10-year-old gets. Your mother's piece is the piece that is left. You have watched this at every camp since March, and you know exactly how it works. She cuts 5 pieces. Then she looks at what is left in the skillet, and that is hers. If what is left is small, she says she is not hungry. If somebody looks at her, she says she ate while she was cooking. She did not eat while she was cooking. You said something about it once, June, at a camp outside Delano, and you were tired, and it came out sharper than you meant it. You said, "Mama, take some of mine." What happened is that your father put his plate down. He did not say anything to you. He looked at your mother, and your mother said she was fine and put the piece she had in her mouth. And after that, nobody at that supper said one word for the rest of it. And the next night she cut the pieces exactly the same way. And it was like that between the 3 of you for 2 days. So you learned the thing you were supposed to learn, which is that this is not a decision anybody in this family is making. It is a thing that is happening, and pointing at it does not stop it. It only makes everyone stand in the room with it. You have not said anything since. What you do instead is eat slower than she does, so that when she is done, there is still some on your plate. And you say you are full, and you put it back in the skillet. And after 2 or 3 minutes, it is gone from the skillet. She has never mentioned that either. It works because neither of you looks at it. The beans come off at 7. They are good tonight. 3 hours, and the salt pork has gone soft and given up everything it had. The onion has cooked away to nothing, and the liquid has thickened the way it does at the end. Everybody eats out of tin plates, standing up or sitting on crates and the running board. And it is dark enough that you eat by feel more than sight. Your father eats fast. He has always eaten fast, since long before any of this. And your mother used to say something about it at the table at home. Your brother sops his plate with bread until there is nothing on it anywhere. The little ones get theirs cut up. Your sister eats about half of hers, which she has been doing for 3 days now. And your mother watches her do it and does not say anything. Then the last part. And this is what separates a family that is going to be all right from a family that is not. Your mother takes the pot off the stove with about 1/3 of the beans still in it. She puts the lid on and puts it in the tent. Nobody at that supper was full. Your father was not full. You were not full. Your brother would have eaten the whole pot given the chance, and would have been sick, and would have done it again the next night. The 1/3 of a pot goes in the tent, because tomorrow is Wednesday, and nobody in this family knows what Wednesday pays. If the truck comes, and the picking is good, that is breakfast, and it is a good breakfast, and everybody is glad of it. If the truck comes and takes 30 people, and none of them is anybody in this family, that 1/3 of a pot is Wednesday. That is the rule. And it is the only rule your mother has ever stated out loud in front of you. And she stated it once, in the 2nd month, in Arizona, to nobody in particular, over a fire. You do not eat it all when you have it. There is a family 4 camps up out of Arkansas that came in about 10 days ago. And the man got 3 days at a vineyard in the second week and got paid. And they ate for 2 days like people who had made it. They have had nothing but flour since Sunday. The woman came and asked your mother for an onion yesterday evening, and your mother gave her 2. Nobody up and down this bank said one word about it. Then, or after, everybody has been that family. Some of them were that family last month. Coffee comes last. The grounds from this morning with a spoon of new on top, boiled in the pot, and it comes out thin and hot, and it tastes like coffee if you are not thinking about it too hard. Your mother pours 4 cups. Your father, herself, you, and 1 for your brother. That is a 1/3 coffee and the rest water. And he holds it in both hands and stands next to your father and does not say anything. And that is the best part of his day, and everybody knows it. You sit on the running board with the cup, and the dock is complete now, and the fires are up along the bank. There is one thing you can smell besides your own supper, and it is 50 or 60 other suppers, and it is all the same supper. Beans and fried bread and coffee. 1/2 mile of it, and if you shut your eyes, you could not tell one camp from another one. Your hands are what starts it. You are washing plates in the basin with the last of the bucket, and the water is cold, and your hands go in, and the cold finds the places on your fingers where the bowls have been at them, and you stand there for a second with your hands in the water. This morning you picked for 10 hours in a field 11 miles north of here. A cotton sack is duck canvas, unbleached, 9 feet long, and about 18 inches across the mouth, with a strap that goes over your right shoulder and down across your chest and hooks to the ring at the mouth. The sack rides on your left side and drags behind you on the ground between the rows. A 9-foot sack holds somewhere around 100 pounds of picked cotton when it is packed. Empty. It weighs about 3 pounds, which does not sound like anything until you understand that you wear it from 6 in the morning until the sun comes off the field, and that the strap sits in the same inch of your shoulder the entire time. There are 12-foot sacks, and there are men who pull them. Your father pulls a 9. You pull a 7.5, which your mother cut down out of a 9 in April. And she did it because a 7.5 is right for you, and because she could not buy you a 7.5. Sacks cost. A new 9-foot sack is $1.25 at a company store, and most of them get bought on credit against the picking. And your family bought 2 in Arizona for cash and has been mending them ever since. Now the plant. Cotton in Kern County in late October stands about waist high on you, higher where the water was good, and it is not green anymore. Frost or time has taken the leaves off, and what is standing in that field is a brown woody thing with the bowls open on it. A bowl is the pod. When it opens, it splits into 4 or 5 sections, and the sections curl back and dry hard and go sharp. And the cotton sits in the middle of them in 4 or 5 separate wads called locks. The dried sections are burrs, and burrs are the whole problem. They are sharp the way a dry thorn is sharp, and they are everywhere, and there is one at every single bowl, which means there is one everywhere. Your hand goes for 10 hours. You pick with both hands, Always. Never one. Left hand and right hand working at the same time on different bowls. And the reason is not speed exactly. A one-handed picker has to move his body to reach. A two-handed picker stands in one place and clears everything he can reach in a half circle before he moves. You take a lock between the thumb and the first two fingers and pull it with a little twist, a roll of the fingers, and it comes out of the burr clean. Pull straight out and you bring burr with it. Trash in the sack. Trash gets you docked at the scale and it gets you talked to. And if you do it steadily, the man moves you off the field. Since trashy cotton goes to the gin, and the gin is where the farmer finds out who was picking his rows. So it is a twist. And the twist is the whole trade. And it takes about 4 days to learn and about a season to stop thinking about. You do not put every lock in the sack. You hold 3 or 4 locks go into the palm of the left hand while the right hand keeps working. And the cotton compresses in your hand. And when you have a good handful, you feed it back into the mouth of the sack without looking. Every trip to the sack is a second. And a second is nothing. And a second 40 times an hour for 10 hours is a great deal of cotton you did not pick. That is the arithmetic. And everybody good does it in their body without ever putting a number on it. Now the burrs in your hands. The first 3 days of your first season, your fingers came apart. Not cut. Exactly. The skin on the pads of the first 2 fingers and the thumb wears through, and it cracks at the corner of the nail, and it bleeds a little, and the blood gets on the cotton. You cannot wrap them. People try. Rags come off. Tape does not stay on in the field, and anything on your fingertips takes the feel away. And the feel is how you find the lock in the burr without looking. So you pick through it, and by the end of the first week, the skin is coming back thicker. And by the end of the first month, you have a picker's hand, which is a hand with the pads gone hard and shiny and the fingerprints worn down flat. That was last season. This is your second, and your hands do not open up anymore. They ache. And they lock up at night, so that in the morning you work them open with the other hand. And that is all. Your mother's hands are worse than yours. She started at 39. There are 2 ways of doing this work. You can bend at the waist. You can go on your knees. Bending is faster. You are up. You can see the row. Both hands are going. And a bent picker who knows the work will move down a row in a way a kneeling picker cannot match. Bending is your back. 10 hours at the waist. And by the 4th hour, your lower back is a bar of hot iron. And by the 8th, you are picking with your hands and holding yourself up with something that has quit. And there is a moment near the end of the day when you straighten up and the whole thing ceases, and you stand in the row for 4 or 5 seconds, unable to do anything at all. Kneeling is slower, and it saves your back, and it takes your knees instead. And there is a piece of the row you cannot reach from your knees. So you are shuffling constantly. Your father bends. He has bent every row he has ever picked, and he is 43 years old. Your mother goes on her knees. She has a piece of quilt tied around each one with string, and she made those in the first week of the first season, and she goes down the row dragging the sack. And she is slower than your father by about a 1/5. You bend. You bend because you are 17 and your back comes back overnight. And because the difference in pounds is real money. And because you tried the knees in September and could not stand the pace of it, your mother has not said anything to you about it. Except once. In the second week of this season, out of nowhere, walking out to the truck in the dark, she said, "Your grandmother picked on her knees until she was 60. That was all she said. She did not turn it into anything. Now, the weight of the day, which is the part nobody outside a cotton field understands. The sack is behind you, empty. It is 3 pounds, and you do not know it is there. At 20 pounds, you know it is there. At 50, it is a thing you are dragging, and every step forward has a pull in it. And the strap has found the place on your collarbone where it is going to live. At 80, you are pulling 80 pounds through soft dirt with your shoulder while both hands work and your back is bent. At 100, you go to the scale. Because 100 is about all a person can drag, and because the sack is full, and the dirt is plowed ground. It is not a floor. You are walking on clods and furrows all day, and the sack behind you is not rolling. It is plowing, catching on every ridge. Water runs the day. You carry it out in a syrup pail or a fruit jar, and it is warm by 9 in the morning. There is usually a barrel at the end of the field on a wagon, and usually a dipper. And everybody uses the dipper. Your mother brought water for the family this morning in a gallon jug wrapped in a wet flour sack. The wet sack keeps it cool about 3 hours. And that is a thing she does that most people in the field do not. And the sun? October in this valley. And it was 91 degrees at 3 in the afternoon in that field, with no shade, anywhere from horizon to horizon except one cottonwood at the far end standing over the irrigation head. And that tree belongs to nobody. You picked from 6:10 in the morning until 5:20 in the afternoon. You went to the scale 4 times. There is one more thing about the morning, and it is the reason people go out there in the dark. Cotton takes up damp early, before the sun is on the field. There is dew, and the cotton in the bowls carries it. And a sack packed at 7 in the morning weighs more than the exact same cotton packed at 2 in the afternoon. Not a lot, but it is real. And every picker in the San Joaquin Valley knows it. And every farmer knows it too, which is why the man with the scale decides what time weighing starts. If the sound of wind on canvas is what gets you to sleep, a like or a subscribe keeps these nights coming. And I would like to know what your grandparents were doing in 1937, and whether anybody in your family ever picked a row of anything. The scale stands at the turn row on the north end of the field. It is a cotton scale, a steel beam about 3 feet long, with a hook on the short end and a sliding poise on the long end, hung from a tripod of 3x4s lashed at the top. The tripod stands about 7 feet, and the beam hangs at a man's chest. The weigher works it standing up, one hand on the poise, and the beam swings and settles, and he reads it. Beside him is the wagon. Beside the wagon is a nail keg he sits on when nobody is at the scale. And on the keg is a composition book with a pencil tied to it by a string. You come in with your sack at 11:40 in the morning. You come in behind a man from the row over, and you wait. And waiting is part of the day. 4 or 5 people are at the scale at any given time in the middle of the morning. The line moves at whatever pace the weigher works at. And every minute you stand there is a minute you are not in the row. While you wait, you lift your own sack. Not all the way. You get your hand under the middle of it and take the weight off the ground for about a second. And you feel where it sits. And you set it back down. You have been doing that since about the third week of last season, and by now you are good at it. Your first month, you were off by 15 pounds either way and had no idea. Then you started paying attention at the scale, watching the beam and setting it against what your hand had told you. And something in your arm learned it. Now you are close. Within 3 pounds, you have proved it to yourself 100 times. This sack, lifted at 11:40 in the morning, packed hard, is 51 pounds. You are as sure of that as you are of anything. The man ahead of you goes up. The weigher hooks the ring at the mouth of the sack, gets it off the ground, slides the poise, waits for the beam to level, reads it, says a number, writes it in the book, and unhooks it. And the man climbs the wheel and dumps his own sack into the wagon. Then he hooks yours. He lifts, the beam comes up and swings, and he runs the poise out with his thumb and lets it settle. He says, 47. He writes 47 in the book next to your father's name, because the family picks under one name, and he unhooks it and steps back. You stand there for about a second and a half. Then you take the sack and climb the wagon wheel and dump it and shake it out and come back down and go back to the row. And here is the reason you are still turning it over at 8 o'clock at night 4 days later. You do not know that he was wrong. You think 51. Your hand said 51. But you have been off before. In September at a field near Wasco, you were sure about a sack, and it came in 4 over what you thought, in your favor. And you took that number, and you did not say anything then either. The beam swings. A cotton scale hanging on a tripod in a field with a man's hand on the poise is not a laboratory. Wind moves it. Where he sets the poise is where he sets it. And you are 17, and you were standing in the sun at 11:40 in the morning with your shoulder raw. And there were 6 people behind you, and the whole thing took 11 seconds. That is what keeps a line quiet. Not fear of the man. Not one person out there is afraid of that particular man, who is somebody's cousin and about 25, and does not enjoy the job. It is that nobody is sure. 4 pounds is 4 pounds. And if you called it, and you were wrong, you would be the girl who called the scale, and it would go up and down that field by noon. There is a man 2 rows over who has been picking since he was 9 years old, in Texas. And he told your father in September that at a place he worked outside Corcoran, he weighed his own sack on a store scale in town, and then took it to the field the same morning. And the field scale read 11 pounds under. Your father listened to that and said nothing, and told your mother about it that night. And you heard it through the canvas. Now the day. You went to the scale 4 times. 47 at 11:40. 52 at 2 in the afternoon. 49 at 4. And 41 at 5:20. Which is a short sack because they quit weighing. 189 pounds. Your father went 5 times and made 241. Your mother went 4 and made 162. On her knees. At 39 years old. 592 pounds of picked cotton put into a wagon by 3 people in 1 day. Now the price? The price is not on a sign. There is no sign anywhere on that field. You find out the price when somebody tells you. And this year, the man who came down the ditch bank told your father 90 cents. 90 cents, 100 pounds. 592 pounds at 90 cents comes to $5.33. 3 people, 10 hours and change. 2 seasons back, it was $1 in this valley. Some places, $1.25. There are more people in California this fall than there were last fall. And every one of them can pick. And there is one crop, and it comes in over about 6 weeks. That is the entire explanation. And nobody in that field needed it. Explain to them. Now the subtractions. The field is 11 miles from the ditch bank. 22 miles round trip in a 1926 Chevrolet with a load. And that car makes about 15 to the gallon on a good road and less on the section roads out to the fields. A gallon and a half. Gasoline is 17 cents. Call it a quarter. Your father figures gas at a nickel over what it costs. Because there is always something. So $5.33 comes down to $5.08. Food for 6 people for a day, run the way your mother runs it, is somewhere between 50 and 70 cents. Kerosene, soap when there is soap, the sack that needs mending, the tire that needs a boot. The pay comes at the end of the day out of a tin box on the tailgate of a pickup truck. You stand in a line for that too? It moves faster than the scale line. The man reads the name and the total out of the book and counts it out, and you go. Your father takes it. $5.33 in mixed coin and bills. He counts it once in his hand. Standing there, he folds the bills and puts them in his front pocket, not the back. And the coin goes in the same pocket. And he puts his hand flat over the outside of the pocket for a second, the way a man does. Then the 3 of you walk back to the car. It is a quarter mile across the turn row to where the cars are parked along the edge of the field. And you walk it with the empty sack over your shoulder. And it weighs 3 pounds, and it feels like nothing at all. And that is the best 3 minutes of the day, and everybody who picks knows it. Your father does not say anything on the walk. He does not say anything on the 11 miles back. Your mother is in the front seat with her head against the door frame and her eyes shut, and she is not asleep. You are in the back, with the window down and the dust coming in, about 4 miles from the ditch, with no lead up to it at all. Your father says they will run out of cotton on that field in about 9 days. That is the only thing anybody says the whole way home. It is the strap that starts it, because you are sitting on the running board at 8:30, working at the buckle end of your sack strap with a piece of wire. And the buckle has been slipping since Monday. The man in the row over showed you how to fix it yesterday. His family is camped at the far north end of this ditch bank, past the concrete, and they have been on this water since the middle of September, which is longer than anybody. He is 50 or so, gray in a black mustache. He wears a straw hat with the brim gone soft and a long-sleeved shirt buttoned to the wrist in 91 degrees. And every picker who has been doing this 20 years wears long sleeves, and every picker who is new does not, and by the second season, the new ones have figured it out. His wife picks. 2 grown sons pick. A daughter about 12 carries water and helps. He is faster Then your father. You have watched it. Your father is a strong man who has been picking 2 seasons. This man picks the way your father used to work, a piece of machinery he had owned for 15 years, with no wasted motion anywhere in it. And he clears about a third more row in the same time, and he does not appear to be hurrying. Yesterday morning your strap came off the ring twice in the first hour. The second time it happened, you were down on one knee in the dirt, trying to get it back through the buckle. And the sack had spilled some. And you were behind, and you could feel that you were behind. He came over from his row. He did not ask. He took the strap out of your hand and turned it over and looked at the buckle and shook his head one time. And then he did the whole thing in about 40 seconds while you watched. The buckle is no good. That is the first thing. The tongue is sprung and it will keep slipping no matter how tight you set it. So you do not use the buckle. You take the free end of the strap and run it through the ring from underneath. Then back over itself and under its own standing part. And then you take the tail and pass it back through the loop you just made and pull it down hard. It is a knot, and it is a knot that jams under load and comes loose when you lift the tail. The harder the sack pulls, the tighter it sits, and the second the weight is off it, you can free it with one hand. You had never seen it before. Nobody in your family knows it. He did it twice so you could see, then undid it and handed you the strap and stood there while you did it yourself. And you got it wrong the first time, and he moved your thumb about an inch with one finger, and then you had it. He said one thing the whole time. He said, "That holds." Then he went back to his row. You have used it since. It has not slipped once. You are going to use it for the rest of your life. His name is on a paper somewhere. Nobody on this ditchbank uses whole names much. His family did not come out here from anywhere this year. They have been in this valley a long time. The 2 grown sons were born in California. The 12-year-old was born in California. You know that because your mother talked to his wife at the water on Monday. And his wife speaks English about as well as your mother does. And the 2 of them stood there 20 minutes with the buckets full at their feet. His people have been going up and down this valley on the same circuit for years. Longer than you have been alive. Lettuce in the winter down south. Peas in the spring. Grapes. Cotton in October. And here is the other thing your mother came back with. And she said it once. Flat. Setting the buckets down. 2 seasons ago on these fields, it was $1. This year, it is 90 cents. And there are places in this county paying 80. Your father heard that and did not answer it. Everybody in that field knows what happened. It is not a mystery, and it does not need anybody to explain it. There are more hands in this valley this fall than there were last fall. A great many more. They came in on the highway, family by family, out of Oklahoma and Arkansas and Texas and Missouri, and your family is one of them. And there was a line of you on Route 66 all summer. A farmer with 60 acres of cotton needs a certain number of pickers for about 6 weeks. If twice that many show up at the turn row, he does not need to say anything at all. He posts nothing. He argues with nobody. He just says 90, and somebody takes it. Because somebody always takes it. Because there is a family in a car behind that family who will take 80. You are the somebody. That is what you are. Out here. You are the reason the number went down. You did not decide it, and you did not want it, and there is nothing, whatever you could have done differently, in the state of Oklahoma in March of 1936 that would have changed 1 cent of it. And the man in the row over, who has been working these fields since before you were born, and who is faster than your father, and who stopped his own picking on a Tuesday morning to show a 17-year-old girl a knot he probably learned from somebody in 1910, is picking this year for 90 cents because you are here. He has not said 1 word about it to you. You have not said 1 word about it to him. You sit on the running board with the strap across your knee and the wire in your hand, and you get the free end through the ring from underneath and back over itself and under the standing part, and you pull it down hard, and it holds. Down at the north end, past the concrete, there is a lamp still burning in a tent. The truck comes down the ditch bank at 7:15, and everybody hears it a long time before it gets there. That is how this place works at night. There is no other engine. The county road is a half-mile off, and you can hear a car on it. But a motor coming down onto the bank in low gear at 7 in the evening means one of 3 things. And 2 of them are bad. Doors open up and down the row before the headlights get past the 4th camp. It is a pickup, a Ford, dark, with a wooden bed on it and a spare lashed to the side. It comes down at a walk and stops about even with the middle of the camps, in the open place where the track widens, and the driver leaves the engine running and leaves the lights on. He does not get out. He puts his arm along the top of the door and leans out of the window a little, and by the time he is settled, there are about 60 people standing in a half circle in front of his radiator with the headlights on their legs. Your father is in the 2nd row of that half circle. You are behind him with your arms folded because it has gone cold. The man talks for about 40 seconds. Here is everything he says. There may be picking tomorrow. The truck comes to this bank at 4, maybe before 4, and it does not wait. Whoever is standing on the track when it gets here has got a chance, and whoever is not, has not. Bring your own water. He does not know how many days. He cannot say how many he takes. Somebody near the front asks what it pays. He says the same as it has been paying. Somebody further back asks which field. He says he does not know yet. Then he says good night, and he backs the pickup about 30 feet and turns it around in the wide place and goes back up the bank, and the taillight goes out of sight, and the whole half circle is standing in the dark. Nobody says anything for a couple of seconds. Then the entire ditch bank comes apart into about 40 conversations at once and stays that way for 20 minutes. The first thing every family does is arithmetic, standing in the dark in front of their own tent. Who goes? Not whether. Everybody goes. The question is which bodies leave this camp at 4 in the morning and which bodies stay. And it is a question about the ones who cannot pick. A family with no small children sends everybody who can pull a sack. A family with small children has to leave somebody. And whoever they leave is a picker who is not picking. And that is money on the ground. The woman next door, with the baby on her hip, has a girl about 14. And the girl is the one who stays. And there are 3 other children under that girl. And that has been the arrangement since the 5th of the month. 2 camps down there is a man alone with a boy of about 11. And the boy picks up the bank away. The Arkansas family that came in 10 days ago. The ones who ate for 2 days after the vineyard money. The man has been sick since Sunday. His wife and 2 half-grown boys are going, and he is not. Everybody within 4 camps knows it, and nobody will say a word about it tomorrow. Your family does it in about 90 seconds by the stove. Your father goes. Your mother goes. You go. Your brother stays with the 2 little ones. Your father says it, and your brother says, "Yes, sir," and that is the whole of it, out loud. What he does next is get the water can and take it down to the ditch and fill it, without being told, and he is gone about 10 minutes. And everybody in the family knows exactly what that means, and nobody says anything about it either. There is a sound going up and down the whole ditch bank now, and it is the sound of 200 people getting ready. Somebody is hammering, not fast. It is a man on a shoe. And there are 3 or 4 people on this bank tonight, with a shoe upside down between their knees and a rock and a handful of nails. There is a woman calling for somebody named Elmer, twice, and then not again. There is a car turning over 4 times, 5, catching on the 6th, running rough for a minute, and then getting shut off. That is a man finding out at 8 o'clock at night instead of at 4 in the morning. And that is the entire reason he did it. Your father does the same thing 10 minutes later. He starts the Chevrolet and lets it idle about a minute and a half and shuts it off. He does not look at the gas gauge in front of anybody this time. And you know he already looked at it, and you know exactly what it says. Here is what he has been running in his head since the pickup went back up the bank. If the field is out east, 8 or 9 miles, his own car can carry the 3 of you, and he does not need the labor truck at all. Being on the track at 4 in the morning would be about finding out where to go. If the field is north, up toward Wasco, it is 22 miles each way, and he has not got the gasoline. Then the truck is the only way any of you get there. And if the truck is full, then nobody in this family works tomorrow. He does not know which. Nobody knows which. The man in the pickup did not know which, and probably was not lying about it. So the plan is the plan everybody on this bank has made. Be on the track at 4. Take whatever comes. Your mother is doing something else entirely, and she has been at it since the pickup left. She is at the crate with the lamp turned up, and what she is doing is dinner for tomorrow in a field with no shade and no store. Cold biscuit from tonight's skillet, wrapped in a flour sack. She makes a second round of bread at 9 o'clock at night for that purpose. And it costs kerosene, and she does it anyway. The gallon jug filled and corked. A second jug, because there are 3 of you. She puts the last of the salt pork in her apron pocket, wrapped, and it is not for eating tomorrow. It is for tomorrow night. Because if the picking is good, there will be 6 people wanting supper at 7 in the evening, and she will not have the strength to make anything complicated. The sacks come out of the car and go over the wire. Yours is the 7.5. Your father's 9. Your mother's 9. Patched twice at the drag end, because the drag end is where a sack wears out. Sliding on plowed dirt, 11 miles of row at a time. She looks at all 3 of them under the lamp for tears. Your father goes down the bank about 100 yards to talk to a man he knows from the field. He comes back in 10 minutes with nothing. The man does not know which field either. At 9 o'clock the ditch bank starts to go quiet. and it goes quiet, a good hour and a half earlier than last night. The lamps go out along the water, one at a time. 200 people are lying down at 9 in the evening on a Tuesday because they are getting up at 3:30. Your mother comes out one more time and looks at the sky. It is clear. There has been no rain on this valley in 2 weeks. She says to nobody that it will be cold in the morning. Then she goes in. Your brother is sitting on the running board with the water can between his feet when you come around the front of the car. He is not doing anything with it. He filled it half an hour ago. He is sitting there with his elbows on his knees, looking down the bank at the last 2 fires. And he has got that look on his face that a 10-year-old gets when he has decided to be fine about something. You sit down on the other end of the running board. Neither of you says anything for a minute. Then he asks you how much a half sack would be. You tell him about 50 pounds if he packed it, which he could not, and about 30 if he did it the way a boy his size would actually do it. He works that out. You can watch him do it. He says 30 pounds is 27 cents. He is right. And he did it in his head. And he is 10 years old and has been in school for 6 weeks total since March of 1936. You tell him that is right. He does not say anything about it. He does not say that 27 cents is a can of milk and most of a box of matches, or that 27 cents times 4 days is more than $1. He has done all of that already, sitting on a running board in the dark. And he knows nobody is going to let him. He asks you if it hurts. You tell him about the burrs. The first 3 days and the skin on the pads of your fingers going and the blood on the cotton and how it comes back thicker. He wants to see. He takes your right hand and turns it over in the dark and runs his thumb across the ends of your fingers. And he does it the way a person checks whether paint is dry. He says it is like the bottom of a foot. You tell him, "Thank you very much." He grins at that and gives you your hand back. Then here is the part he has actually been sitting out here about. He says, without any lead-in, that the baby got out to the ditch on Sunday. You did not know that. He says he had him back in about 10 seconds and the water never got past his shoes, and that he did not tell anybody because nothing happened. And he has been carrying it since Sunday. And he is telling you at 10 o'clock at night, the day before he has to do it again for 11 hours. You do not make it into a thing. You tell him what you do, which is that you put the baby where you can see him without turning your head, and that the trick is you never let him get behind you, because the second he is behind you, he is at the water. He says he knows that now. You tell him to give him the chair, the busted one, prop it against the crate on the low side and put him in it. And he will sit in it. And he sits in nothing else. He says he knows about the chair. Then he says the other thing, quick, like he wants it out before he decides not to. He says, what if the baby goes in and he cannot get him? That is the whole shape of it. And he has been holding it since Sunday, and he had to put it down somewhere. And you are what there is. You do not tell him it will not happen. You tell him the woman next door is 40 feet away, and she is there all day, and she has got 4 of her own, and she will come if he yells. And that yelling is not the same as failing. And that if he yells and she comes, he did the thing right. He thinks about it. He says, all right. Then he says, and this is the part that gets you, that he would rather pick. You tell him you know. You tell him something else. and you are not sure, while you are saying it, whether it is true or whether you are just handing him something. You tell him that when he is 12 he will pick, and that when he is 12 you will be 19 and gone somewhere, and that he had better learn the knot now, because you will not be around to show him. He wants to see the knot. So you get the strap off the wire and you show him, right there on the running board in the dark, going by feel, because there is no light, free end through the ring from underneath, back over itself, under the standing part, tail through the loop, pull it down hard. He gets it wrong twice, and then he gets it. He puts his whole weight on it, sitting down, hauling on the strap with both hands, and his heels dug in the dirt, and it does not slip. He says, "Huh?" That is all he says. He does it 3 more times while you sit there, and the 3rd time he does it without looking at his hands. And then he hands you the strap back and picks the water can up by the bale. He says he will get them up before it is hot. He goes into the tent. You sit on the running board a while longer, with the strap across your knee. There is a thing you did not say, and you are not going to say it, which is that he is not staying because he is 10. He is staying because he is 10 and worth about 27 cents a day. And the 2 little ones are worth nothing at all. And somebody has to be worth nothing, so the other 3 can go. He worked that out himself somewhere around August. That is the part you cannot fix, and it is why you told him about being 19 and gone, which you do not believe, and which he did not believe either. And both of you took it anyway because it was on the table. Your mother does not go to bed at 9. She turns the lamp down to about 1/4 and sets it on the crate cupboard and sits on the mattress with her back against the toolbox. And she works until a little after 10. And she has done this at every camp since March. And you have never once heard her mention it. She picked 162 pounds today on her knees. She walked to the water twice. She cooked twice. Now here is what is left. The sacks first, because a sack that lets go in the field eats the day. Hers has a place at the drag end where the canvas is going soft, and it is not torn yet, and she puts a patch on it before it is torn, since a torn sack in the middle of a row is 40 minutes, and 40 minutes is 30 pounds. The patch comes off an old flour sack. She keeps a roll of pieces in the sewing box, and she has been carrying that roll since Oklahoma. She sews it with a heavy needle and doubled thread. Duck canvas is hard on a needle and hard on a hand, and she pushes the needle through with a thimble that has a dent in the top of it. About 20 minutes. Then your strap, which she looks at, and she sees the knot the man showed you. She turns it over in her hands twice. She does not ask where you learned it. She takes the strap and puts a bar tack across the place where the canvas is wearing at the ring. 4 or 5 stitches back and forth pulled tight, which will keep the wear from starting a tear. And then she hands it back. Then, feet. The little ones are asleep, and their feet got washed at supper. Your brother sits on a crate, and she looks at his feet by lamplight and finds a place on his heel that is starting to go. And she says he has been running in the dirt without his shoes. He says everybody does. She says, "Put your shoes on." And that is the end of that conversation. Then your father, he takes his shoes off and sets them by the wall, and he has a place on the ball of his right foot that has been there since Delano, and it is not a blister anymore. It is what a blister turns into when a man keeps walking on it. She looks at it. He looks at the wall. She does not do anything to it, since there is nothing to do to it. There is no salve in this camp, and there has been none since June. She says the thing she has said before, which is that he ought to cut the cardboard bigger so it does not sit right on the spot. Then she does the cardboard. This is a thing your family learned in California and did not know in Oklahoma. His right shoe is worn through under the ball of the foot. There is a hole about the size of a $50, and inside it, cut to the shape of the sole, is a piece of cardboard off a grocery carton. At home in a wet winter, that cardboard would have been paste in a day. You could put a fresh piece in at 6 in the morning, and by afternoon it was a gray mash and you were on the ground. Out here in October, it is dry. The dust is fine as flour, and it gets in and it works at the cardboard. And nothing is wet. And a piece cut right will go 3 days, and sometimes 4, before it breaks up. That is one of maybe 2 things about California that is better. And your mother said so out loud in September. And it is the only good word about this state anybody in your family has said since the Tehachapi. She cuts the new piece from a post-toasties box that has been in the crate for 2 weeks. She uses the old piece as a pattern, laid on the cardboard, and cuts around it with the paring knife. And then she cuts it a little wider on the outside edge, the way she said, and doubles a second small piece under where the ball of the foot sits. 4 minutes. She does the same for your left shoe, which is not through yet but is close. And she puts a piece in it anyway, ahead of it, because a piece put in before the hole opens keeps the hole from opening. Then your hands. You have a crack at the corner of the nail on your right index finger, and it opened again this afternoon. She takes your hand under the lamp and turns it over. Your hand in her hand under a lamp is the same hand you have had all day. You look at it while she is looking at it. And it is the hand of somebody who works. The pads have gone flat and shiny. The lines of the fingerprints are worn down, and there is nothing on the ends of those fingers that is like the rest of your skin. You are 17 years old. She does not put anything on the crack. There is nothing to put on it. What she does is take a thin strip of clean cloth and wrap it around the finger and tie it. And it will be off inside the first hour tomorrow. And she wraps it anyway. And you let her. Your father has been sitting against the wall this whole time not doing anything. That is not idleness. He is a man who did something with his hands every evening of his life until 1936. And out here, there is nothing in the evening for him to do, because the car is running and the tent is up and there is no ground to think about. At about 9:30, he gets up and goes out and lifts the hood again with the lamplight coming out the tent door behind him. He comes back in 5 minutes later and says the fan belt will go before Christmas. Nobody answers that. The last thing your mother does is the food for the field. She wraps the bread from the second skillet in a flour sack and puts it in the crate with a board on top so nothing gets at it. She fills the second jug from the water can and corks it. Then she takes a wet flour sack and wraps the first jug in it and sets it in the doorway of the tent where the night air will get at it. Because a wet sack on a jug overnight in a dry valley makes the water cold by morning, and it stays cool until 9 or 10 in the field. That is her trick. She worked it out at Shafter in August, watching a woman 2 tents over who had been in Arizona all her life. And she has done it every picking day since. and it is the single most popular thing about your family in any field you have ever worked, because she brings enough for the row on both sides. At about 10 o'clock, she puts the sewing box away and sits there a minute with her hands in her lap. You are at the tent door on your way out to the car. You ask her if she is tired. She looks up. She says she wants to get to town Saturday. Then she reaches over and turns the lamp down until it is out, and you hear her lie down in the dark, and your sister coughs twice, and your mother says something to her that you cannot hear. Your father is patching a tube by lamplight at 10:30. The left rear has been going down slow since Sunday, not flat. It goes soft over about 2 days, and he pumps it, and it goes soft again. And a slow leak is a thing a man can live with for a while, and then one morning cannot. So the wheel comes off, and the tire comes off the rim with 2 irons, and the tube comes out and goes in the wash tub full of ditch water, and he runs it through his hands, section by section, watching for the string of bubbles. You hold the lamp. There are 11 patches on this tube. You know because you counted them in Arizona when there were 7, and you have counted them since. They are hot patches, the kind that come in a tin with a little metal cup and a pill of fuel that you light, and it clamps the patch down and cures it. Your father has been buying that tin for 2 years, and there are 4 patches left in it. He finds the leak on the second pass, small, near an old patch, which is how it goes. He roughs the rubber with the little grater on the back of the patch tin. He lays the patch. He sets the clamp. He lights the pill, and it burns down with a smell you would know anywhere. And you sit there holding a lamp over your father's hands, looking at the 11th patch, and it takes you all the way back. Here is what a person sells. The morning you left, there was a sale in the yard, and it was not an auction, and there was no auctioneer. Your father put the word out, and men came, and they walked around the yard for 2 hours and picked things up and put them down. The corn planter went for $9. It was a 2-row planter, and it was 15 years old, and it worked. And your father had kept it under a shed roof and greased it every fall. The man who bought it farms a section and a half 4 miles east, and he has known your father since they were both young men. And he is not a bad man in any way you ever heard about. He came in the yard and looked at the planter and did not haggle. He said 9, and your father said, "All right, $9. Your father carried the check into the house and put it on the table and went back outside. The team went the week before. The wagon went. The cream separator went to a woman from town for $2.50. Your mother's dishes went in a box, and she got $1.75 for them. And she was not in the yard when it happened. She was in the house with the door shut. And you were 14 years old, standing in the kitchen with her. What did not sell got left. That is the part nobody tells you about. There is a whole house of things nobody wants at any price. And you walk through it on the last morning, and you shut the door. Your father's toolbox went in the car. Now the second thing, the dust. It was not the storms. Everybody outside of it thinks it was the storms. And there were storms. And there was one black afternoon in April of 1935 that people in 3 states will describe to you the same way as long as they live. But that was one day. What it was 2 years of dirt in the house. The dirt got in through the window frames. It got in around the door. It came down the stovepipe. You would sweep at 8 in the morning, and there would be a film on the floor by noon. And this was on days with no storm at all. On ordinary days, with a wind out of the southwest, your mother hung wet sheets over the windows. You wet them again at noon. They dried and stiffened and went gray. And she took them down and washed them and put them back. She turned every dish on the table upside down every night for 2 years. Every plate, every cup, every bowl, upside down on the oilcloth. And in the morning you turned them right side up and wiped them with a rag before you put anything in them. That is what it was. 2 years of turning the dishes over every night. A woman doing a small, pointless thing 800 times because it was the one thing she could do. The baby was born in the middle of it, and he had a cough for the first 10 months of his life. And the doctor in town called it dust pneumonia and said, "Keep him inside." And there was no inside. Then the third thing, and this is where it goes to the green. The Tehachapi Mountain. You came in on the highway across the Mojave and up out of the desert at Mojave Town, and the road starts to climb. And it climbs a long time. The Chevrolet was carrying 6 people and everything the family had left in the world. It boiled twice. The first time was a little past halfway, and your father pulled off on a wide place, and everybody got out and stood on the shoulder while it cooled. And it took 40 minutes. And there were 2 other cars stopped in that same wide place, doing the same thing. And one of them had Texas plates. The second time was near the top, and that time everybody walked. You walked up a grade in California in the middle of the afternoon carrying the baby, behind your own car, which was going about as fast as you were, with your mother beside you carrying the water cannon, and your brother running ahead the way a 9-year-old does and getting called back. You walked maybe a mile and a half. Then the road came around and started down. Your father stopped the car. He did not say anything, and he did not point. Below you, going out flat and enormous to the west and north, with no end anywhere in it, was the San Joaquin Valley. It was green, not everywhere. There was brown in it, and there was gray in it. But there was green running in long, straight pieces across the floor of it for 20 miles, and more of it further out, and water shining in lines where the canals were. You had not seen a field that color since the spring of 1934. Your mother had the baby on her hip, and she stood there and did not say a word. Your brother said something about how big it was. Your father said, "Well," that is all he said. "Well," and then he stood there another minute, and then he said, "Everybody get in." The family stood on that road about 4 minutes. Now, the tube is patched, and the clamp is off, and your father is working it back into the tire with his thumbs, and the lamp is between you on the ground, and it is coming up on 11 o'clock at night. The cotton field is on the other side of the ditch. You can hear the water going, and you cannot see the field at all. And you know exactly where it starts, because you looked at it for 2 hours before dark. 400 yards. 400 yards from where your father is putting the 11th patch back on a wheel, there is a field of cotton that was irrigated all summer, that did not miss water 1 week in the whole year, standing white and open and ready. Between here and there is a 3-wire fence and a plank across a ditch. Your father gets the tire seated and stands up and puts his hands on his back and stretches, and then he picks up the pump. You were in town this afternoon before you came out to the ditch. Bakersfield, on a Tuesday, at 3 o'clock, and the family came in off the highway with everything on the car. And your father parked on a side street 2 blocks off Chester Avenue because there was shade. You went with your mother. Your father stayed with the car and the little ones. The list was 4 things: kerosene, a gallon, flour, if it was under $1 for 24 pounds, matches, and a can of milk if there was anything left, which there was not going to be. You had $1.10. The store was a grocery on a corner with a screen door and a wooden floor and a ceiling fan going. And there were 3 or 4 people in it when you came in. What happened took about 6 minutes, and none of it is a story. The man behind the counter looked at you. He looked at your mother first, and then he looked down and looked at her shoes, and then at yours, and then he came back up to her face. And the whole thing took about a second and a half, and you saw all of it. He was not rude. He said afternoon. Your mother said what she wanted and he got it. The flour was 95 cents for 24 pounds, and she bought it. The kerosene was 15. Matches were a nickel. That is $1.15, and she had $1.10. And she said, "Leave off the matches." He put the matches back. While he was doing that, a woman came in behind you with a basket over her arm, and she stood back about 4 feet further than a person stands when they are waiting in a line. Not rudely. She just stood back. Second thing, there was a card in the window of the hardware next door, and you read it while your mother was counting out the money. Hand printed. In the corner of the glass. No help wanted. Do not ask. Third thing, you came out on the sidewalk carrying the flour, and there were 2 boys about your brother's age sitting on the curb by the truck. One of them said something to the other one, in a voice pitched to Carrie, and it was your voice. It was your accent, done the way a kid does an accent, drawn way out and stupid sounding. And it was a sentence about being from Oklahoma. The other one laughed. Then a woman down the block called one of their names and they got up and went. You stood on that sidewalk with a sack of flour on your hip. Your mother was behind you in the doorway, and she had heard it too. She came past you and said, "Come on." And she said it the way she says it when there is nothing else to say. And you went to the car. Nobody in the family said one word about it on the way out of town. The word is Okie. You had heard it before. It is on this valley the way dust was on the other one. It is in the newspaper. It is what the man at the filling station in Barstow said to the man he worked with while your father was paying him. And he did not say it meanly. He said it the way you would say, "A truck was a Ford." It does not mean somebody from Oklahoma. There are people on this ditchbank from Arkansas and Texas and Missouri and one family from southern Illinois. And every one of them is an Okie. And the word means something like this: a person living in a tent, a person who will work for less, a person whose children are in the school for 6 weeks and then gone, a person who is a problem for a county. Your father is a farmer who owned $900 worth of equipment in 1934. Now the fourth thing, and this is the one you have been sitting with. You had gone about 8 steps from the counter, and the man came around the end of it with the paper sack of flour your mother had set down to get the kerosene can. He carried it out to the sidewalk for her, and when he handed it over, there was something else in the top of it. A small sack of cornmeal, maybe 2 pounds. He did not say anything about it, and he did not look at your mother when he did it. He said, "Mind the step," and he went back inside, and the screen door banged. Your mother did not look in the sack until you were at the car. She stood there with her hand in the top of it for about 3 seconds. Then she folded the top down and put it under her arm and got in the front seat. She has not mentioned it to your father. You have thought about it 4 or 5 times tonight, and you cannot get it to sit still. The same man looked at your shoes. Then he put 2 pounds of cornmeal in the sack and did not want to be thanked for it. Both of those are the same man on the same afternoon. You do not have any place to put that. So you put it down, and you pick up the lamp, and you go around the front of the car to hold the light for your father while he pumps the tire. Your father went out to weed patch on Saturday. He took the car, and he took your brother, and he was gone from 8 in the morning until the middle of the afternoon. And when he came back, he did not say much of anything about it in front of the little ones. Tonight he tells your mother, "You are lying in the back seat of the car with the window down about 4 inches, and they are 10 feet away on the other side of the canvas, with the lamp already out. And they are talking in the voice they use when they think everybody is asleep, which carries better than they know." He tells it in order, the way he tells everything. It is 9 miles from here, southeast, out past Arvin. It is a government camp. The Farm Security Administration runs it. And before that it was another agency. And the name changed sometime this year. And none of that matters to anybody on this ditch bank. What matters is what is in it. There is a road in, and a gate, and an office by the gate with a man in it. There are rows of platforms, wood platforms, built up off the ground. And a family puts their own tent up on the platform, and the tent is off the dirt. Some of them have little frame shelters. 1 room, about the size of your tent, with a roof. There is running water. There is a building with toilets in it that flush. There is a building with showers in it, and the water in them is hot. He said that part twice. There is a laundry building with concrete tubs in a row, and a place to hang wash out of the dust. There is a place for children, a nursery, he calls it. A woman keeps the small ones during the day, so mothers can go to the field. And he does not know exactly how it works. And he says it was full of kids, and there was a woman running it, and it looked like a school. You are lying on the seat with your hand in your hair while he says that. Your hair has not been washed since the last week of September. It has 3 weeks of road dust in it, and cotton lint from this morning, and wood smoke from other people's fires. And it does not feel like hair anymore. It feels like something that has been folded. The camp is run by the people in it. That is the part your father spent the most time on. There is a manager, who is a government man. And under him, there is a camp council that the campers elect. Grown people who live in that camp, in tents, on platforms, who get voted in by the other campers, and who make the rules for the camp. There is a camp court. If a man makes trouble, the court is other campers, and they hear it, and they can put him out. There is a small fee by the week. If a family has not got it, they can work it off in camp labor, and the office counts that the same. Your father stood at the gate and looked at the place a while before he went in. Then he went in and asked the man in the office about a place. The man was not a government man. That is the thing your father keeps coming back to. He was a camper. He was on the council and taking his turn in the office. And he was from Texas. And he had a pencil and a book. He was decent about it. He did not hurry your father, and he did not talk down to him. He wrote the name down. He wrote how many in the family, and how many were children, and where you were camped now. Then he told your father the truth. The camp is full, and it is full through the cotton. And there are families on that list ahead of yours that have been on it a long while. Your father asked how long. The man said he could not tell him. Families come out, and families come in with the crops, and sometimes it moves in November when the picking is over and people go south. And sometimes it does not move at all. Then he said the other thing. And your father repeats it in the dark, in the words the man used. He said, I was on this list a good while myself. Before I got in, your father said all right and thanked him and came out. He stood in the road outside the gate a minute before he got in the car. Your brother wanted to know what a shower was. Out loud, in front of the man at the gate. And that is the only part of the whole trip your father told at supper. Now your mother in the dark. She does not say anything for a while. Then she asks him one question, and it is the only question she asks about the whole thing. She asks whether the toilets are in a building for the women separate. He says yes. She does not say anything else. You lie there in the back seat with your brother's foot against your leg, and you do the thing you were not going to do, which is put your family in it. A wood floor under the tent. Water out of a pipe that nobody has to carry 200 yards and let stand an hour. The little ones drinking without the pot going on the stove. Your sister and that cough. In a tent on a platform, off the ground. Your mother in a laundry building with a concrete tub and hot water in it. Instead of on her knees over a galvanized tub in the dirt at 10 o'clock at night, your mother's dress. The dark blue one, folded in newspaper, in the box under the bedding. There would be a reason to take it out. There is a hall in that camp, and your father said there is a dance on Saturday nights, and the campers run it themselves. A shower. You have not been all the way clean since the last week of August, when there was a canal near Shafter, with a place the families used. And even that was canal water. You hold all of that for maybe a minute and a half. Then you turn your face, and the seat smells like the seat. Dust and old mohair and gasoline and the sack that has been riding on it. And 40 feet away, the ditch is going by with 200 people's wash water in it. So you put it down. There is nobody to be angry at. The camp is 9 miles from here, and it is clean, and it is real, and there are people living in it tonight who were on a ditch bank like this one in the spring. The government has been building those camps across this state for a couple of years now. And there are others. And there are nowhere near enough of them. There are more families in this valley this fall than every one of those camps could hold, with 4 families to a platform. Nobody stopped your family from getting in. There is just no room. The man at the gate waited a long while himself, and he did not stop anybody either. Your father does not say anything else about it, and your mother does not either. And after a while, the talking stops. Your sister coughs 3 times. You hear your mother move, and then her hand on the child's back, patting, slow, the way she does, and it goes on maybe 2 minutes, and then it stops and everything is quiet again. Here is what 200 people sleeping on a ditch bank sound like. The water goes all night. That is under everything else. It is not a stream, and it does not splash. It is 4 feet of water moving in a dirt channel at a walking pace. And the sound of it is a low, continuous going. There is a place about 40 feet up where the bank has fallen in and the water changes note there. And if you listen for that, you can pick it out. You quit hearing the ditch on the second night in the first camp you ever stayed at that had one. It comes back when everything else stops. The canvas. The wind comes down this valley off the mountains at night, and it is not strong, and it does not gust much. It pushes. The tent wall goes in and comes back, and the ridge line where the hay tarp is sewn on makes a different sound than the wall does. A heavier flap, because the tarp is stiffer. And after 14 months of sleeping next to a piece of canvas, you can hear the seam. The whole camp does it. 60 tents breathing out of step with each other for half a mile. The pump? There is an irrigation pump on the other side of the cotton, and it started at 9 o'clock, and it has been running since. A low hum with a knock in it. 1 knock every second or so. And the knock is what carries. Somebody over there is watering something in October at midnight. That pump will run until sometime after 2, and then it will stop. And you will not notice it stop. Later you will notice that it is not running, and you will not know when it quit. The coughs. There are 3 you can pick out from here. A man about 4 camps north with something in his chest. Going in, runs of 5 and 6, and then quiet for 10 minutes. A child down at the low end that coughs high and thin and does not stop for very long. And your sister, 11 feet away through canvas, and hers is dry, and it comes twice and then again. You have counted them tonight without meaning to. The talk. There are 2 men somewhere north of here who have been going since about 10:30. You cannot hear 1 word of it. It is 2 voices back and forth. Low, one of them longer than the other. And it has been running over an hour. They are not arguing. It is the rhythm of 2 men who have decided not to sleep yet. A dog. Somebody's dog. Up past the concrete. 4 barks in quiet. And it does that about every 20 minutes, and nobody says anything to it. A baby, not yours. It starts up somewhere in the middle of the camp around 11 and goes about 10 minutes and then stops. And the stopping is not gradual. That is a baby getting picked up. Around 11:15, somebody up at the north end gets a guitar out. It is not a good guitar, and he is not playing it loud. It is a man sitting outside his tent, playing to himself and to whoever is close enough. And the sound comes down the bank thin and comes and goes with the wind. He plays something, you know. Everybody out here knows it. It is a hymn, and you have heard it in a church in Salisaw with an organ, and you have heard it sung by 300 people. And this is 1 man with a guitar on a ditch bank playing it slow. He gets about halfway. A child starts crying 2 tents over from him. Hard. The way they do when they wake up somewhere that is not where they thought they were. He stops. He waits. The crying goes a minute, and then somebody has the child and it winds down. He does not start again. You lie there waiting for him to, and he does not. And after a while, you hear him put the guitar inside. Somewhere around midnight, your sister goes off. It is different from the others. It comes in a run, and it does not break. 8 or 9 of them, stacked up with no air in between. and then a sound at the end of it, like she is trying to get a breath, and the breath will not come clean. You are up on your elbow before you know you move. You hear your mother in the tent, not talking. You hear her get up, and you hear the quilt go back, and then you hear her sit the child up. Because that is what it sounds like when somebody sits a 5-year-old up in the dark. The coughing keeps on, then it stops. There is about 4 seconds where nothing at all happens in that tent. Then you hear your sister take a breath, and it is a whole one, and then another one, and your mother says something to her, 3 or 4 words, and you cannot hear what. Then the water dipper against the pail. Then nothing. Your mother stays sitting up. You can tell because there is no sound of her lying back down. And you lie in the car with your ear about 8 inches from the window, and you listen for it for what feels like a long time. And it does not come. Your father says something to her. One short thing. From over on his side. She says, "Go to sleep." That is all either of them says. You lie back down. You have heard your mother handle 103 degrees of fever in Arizona without her hands changing speed. She did not sit up afterward. She lay back down, and she was asleep in 4 minutes, and up at 4:30. She is sitting up now. You lie there with your eyes open, and you do the thing that you cannot stop doing, which is to picture the platform at Weed Patch. Wood floor. Off the dirt. 9 miles. Then you make yourself quit, and you count the ditch instead, which is a thing you can do, because the place where the bank fell in makes that change in the note about every 40 seconds. If the water is running even, you get to 11 and lose it. At about 1 in the morning, a family 4 camps down takes their tent apart in the dark. You hear the whole thing. First a car door. Once, quiet, somebody being careful. Then the steaks. A steak coming out of dry, hard pan makes a specific sound, and there is no other sound like it. A short scrape, and then nothing. And you can count them. He does not pull them all. He pulls the guys and drops the canvas, and then he pulls the rest. Then the poles coming down, and the canvas going over. And the canvas is the loudest part of the whole business. Then boxes, 4 or 5 of them going up onto a rack. Nobody in that family says anything above a whisper the entire time. Not one word. They are packed in about 18 minutes, which is fast, which means they have done this a great many times. Then the engine turns over. Once, twice, and it catches on the third. And it runs rough, about 30 seconds, and then smooths out. They pull up the track past your camp. The headlights come across the canvas of your tent, and across the inside of the car, and across your brother's face. And they swing and go. And the sound of the motor goes up the bank and out onto the county road and turns north and is gone in a minute and a half. Nobody came out to see them off. Not one person on this ditch bank got up. You do not know where they are going. You do not know their name. Nobody is going to ask in the morning. And by tomorrow evening, there will be somebody else on that ground with their stakes in the same holes. Everything on this bank is up on stakes, and everything on it can be gone in 18 minutes. And a person who has lived out here a while learns to hear a camp break at 1 in the morning and go back to sleep. You lie there after the sound is gone. The ditch is still going. The pump quit sometime, and you did not notice. The wind has dropped, and the canvas is barely moving now. Your sister does not cough again. Your brother turns over and takes his foot off your leg and puts it back a minute later. Somewhere down the bank, a man says one word out loud in his sleep, and then there is nothing. The book is under the quilt at the back of the seat, flat against the upholstery. It has been in that exact place since Fireball, which is where you started keeping it, in the car, instead of in the box. Because in the box your mother handles it every time she packs, and in the car nobody does. It is a reader, 8th grade, green cloth cover gone gray at the corners, and the spine is loose but holding. It is not yours. It came off a shelf at a school in Sallisaw in the spring of 1936, and the teacher handed it to you on a Friday and said, "Bring it back Monday." And there was no Monday. Because the family went on the 11th, you did not steal it. You have thought that through about 100 times, and you come out in the same place every time, which is that you did not know on Friday that you were going on the 11th, and that once you were in Arizona, there was no way on earth to get a book back to Oklahoma. Nobody has ever asked you for it. You get it out at about 20 minutes past 1. There is a lamp in the car. Not the good one. It is a small tin lamp with a chipped chimney that your mother would not put on the crate cupboard, and it lives under the front seat. And you have turned the wick down so far that it is a bead of light about the size of a pea. You hold the book at an angle to catch it. You have read 3 pages of this book more times than you can put a number on. Not the whole book. There is a whole book here, and you have read all of it at one time or another. It is 3 particular pages you come back to. They are in the middle. It is a piece about a man who goes out to a lighthouse. And it is not a story exactly. It is a description of what he does, and how the light works, and what the sea does at night, in different weather. You do not know why it is that one. You have thought about it. The best you have come up with is that nothing happens in it. Nobody in it is trying to get anywhere. A man goes up some stairs, and lights a light, and looks at the water, and comes down. And it says how many steps, and what the glass is made of. You have never seen the ocean. It is about 110 miles from where you are lying. Here is your schooling. You finished the 9th grade in Oklahoma in the spring of 1936, and you were 15. Since then, 14 months in California, and you have been enrolled in school 3 times. The first was in Kern County last fall, near Shafter, and you went 6 weeks. That is the longest. 6 weeks. In a room with about 40 children, and 11 of them were from camps, and you could tell which 11 from the doorway, and so could everybody else. The second was in the spring near Delano, and it was 3 weeks. The third was in February, and it lasted 4 days. 4 days. The family got word of work in another county on a Thursday night, and the car went Friday morning. And you did not tell anybody at that school you were leaving, because nobody in the family knew on Thursday afternoon that you were. You had a desk there. You had a desk for 4 days. The teacher at Shafter was a young woman, about 25, and she was decent to you. She kept you after one afternoon in the 5th week, not for trouble, and asked what you had had in Oklahoma. And you told her, and she said you ought to be in the 11th, and that she would talk to somebody. You said all right. 3 weeks later, you were in Delano. You have not thought about her in a long time. Your brother is asleep with his back to you. He has been in school 6 weeks total in his whole life since you left. He is 10 years old, and he can read, and he can read, because your mother sat with him in Arizona in the 2nd month with a Bible and a stick to point with. You read the 3 pages. It takes about 11 minutes because you are going slow on purpose. And you get to the part where the man comes down the stairs in the morning, and the light goes off, and the sea is described one more time in daylight. Then you go back to the top and start again. You get about a third of the way in, and you become aware that there is somebody at the car. Your mother is standing outside the window. You did not hear her come. She is in her dress with a quilt over her shoulders, and she is barefoot in the dirt. And she is not looking in at you. She is looking down the bank at nothing. She has been standing there some amount of time you do not know. You do not move. She turns and looks in at you through the window glass. And there is a pea of light in the car, and it is on the page and on your hands and not on your face. She looks at you for about 4 seconds. Then she says, 4 o'clock. That is the whole thing. She does not say put it away, and she does not say get to sleep, and she does not say anything about the kerosene. And there is kerosene burning in that lamp, and there are 2.5 gallons in the can. She says, 4 o'clock. You say yes, ma'am. She stands there 1 more second, and then she goes back around the front of the car, and you hear the tent flap. You read to the end of the page you are on. Then you close the book and put it flat under the quilt against the upholstery. And you turn the wick down until the flame goes out and the chimney ticks as it cools. And you put the lamp under the front seat where it lives. It is about 20 minutes to 2. You lie there with your arm over your eyes, and your hand on your face smells like kerosene and like the cotton from this morning, which is a smell like nothing else, dry and a little green and a little like dust, and it does not wash off in a basin. 2 hours and 10 minutes. Somewhere around 2, your father says your mother's name in the tent. He says it quietly, and it is a question. And she says something back. And both of them have been lying there awake for some length of time. Neither one has admitted to. You are 11 feet away with the car window down 4 inches. You could roll it up. You do not. And you are going to think about that later. And you already know you will not be able to say why. Your mother goes first. She says it flat, without any wind up to it, in the voice of somebody who has had the sentence ready a while and has been waiting for a night to say it on. She says she wants to go home. Your father does not answer for a bit. She says the rest of it before he can. She does it in order, and every piece of it is a thing and not a feeling. And that is how she argues. And your father is the one in this family who argues out of the other place. She says, there is the house. The house is standing. Your uncle wrote in July, it is not your family's house anymore, and the bank has it, and nobody is in it. And it is standing there with the pump in the yard. She says a person could put in a garden. There is ground, and she could have a garden, and there would be beans, and there would be greens, and there would be tomatoes, and she could put up enough in one summer to carry 6 people through a winter. And she has done exactly that every year of her life, from the time she was 12 until 1935. She says out here she buys everything. Every bean, every ounce of flour, every drop of kerosene. And there is not one thing this family eats that does not come out of a store. And she has never lived that way, and she is no good at it. She says, the children. She says it once and does not repeat it. 3 weeks of school, 4 days of school, 6 weeks of school. She says your brother is 10 and cannot spell, and she taught him herself, and she has not had 1 hour to sit with him since April. She says the baby was born in the dust, and he has been sick every winter of his life, and he is going to be sick in this one. In a tone. Then she stops. Your father takes a while. When he starts, he does not raise his voice, and he does not get up, and he goes through it the way he goes through a thing he has already gone through by himself several times. He says there is no crop. He says, it is not the house, and it is not the ground. There has not been a crop on that ground in 3 years, and there was none this year either. And your uncle wrote that too. And she read the same letter he did. He says, the ground is not theirs anymore. And putting a garden in on the bank's ground is fine until somebody comes, and it will not carry them past March. He says, what would he do? That is the one he says twice. He says it once as a question, and then he says it again lower. And the second time, it is not a question. And it is the only place in the whole conversation where his voice does anything. He is 43. He farmed rented ground for 19 years, and the last 4 of them, he was going backwards. And he has a toolbox in that tent. And there is no work in that county for a man with a toolbox, because there is no money in that county at all. Out here, he picked 241 pounds today. Then he does the gasoline. He does it out loud, slow, and you can hear him running it the same way you have heard him run it a dozen times. It is about 1,400 miles. The car makes 15 to the gallon loaded, less on grade. And there is grade at Tehachapi going out, and grade in New Mexico, and grade in Arizona. So, call it 13. 108 gallons. Gasoline runs 16 and 17 cents and higher. Out in the desert, stretches where they know what they have got. So call it 17, $18 and change. And that is gasoline only, with nothing for a tire, and nothing for a fan belt, and nothing for 6 people to eat for 6 days. Call it 25, to get out of the state of California and into Sallisaw with the car still running. He says they have got, tonight, $4.11. There was $5.33 on Monday, and there was rent on nothing, and there was flour at 95 cents, and kerosene at 15, and the tire before that, and the pier of it comes down to $4.11 in his front pocket right now. Then he stops. Your mother does not say anything for a long time. When she does, she says she knows. That is all she says. She says, I know. And that is the thing. And it is what makes it worse than a fight would have been. She is not asking him to do arithmetic he has not done. She has done it herself. She knew the number before she opened her mouth, and she said the thing anyway. Because a person has to say it out loud to somebody one time, or it sits in them. He knows that too. Neither one of them is wrong. She is right that 6 people cannot live like this, and that the children are being spent. He is right that there is nothing to go back to and no way to get there. Both of those are true at the same time in the same tent. And there is no third thing anywhere. And that is why the conversation stops. It does not end. Nobody concedes, and nobody apologizes, and neither one says good night. It just stops. Then, after maybe 2 minutes, your father says one more thing. He says if they get a full week on this cotton, and then the picking at Shafter after, they could look at it again in December. He does not believe it. Your mother says, all right. She does not believe it either. That is where it ends. On a thing neither of them believe. Offered by one and accepted by the other. Because there is nothing else to put down at the end of a conversation like that one. And because it is 2 in the morning and the truck comes at 4, you lie there. Your brother has not moved in a while, and his breathing is slow and even, and you cannot tell. He is 10 years old. You do not ask him. You lie in the back seat of a 1926 Chevrolet on a ditchbank outside Bakersfield, with your eyes open and the book under the quilt against the small of your back. And you think about a garden. You are 17 years old and you have not thought about a garden in 2 years and you cannot get it to stop. Beans on a string. The tomatoes your mother tied to stakes on the south side of the house. The pump in the yard, and the sound the handle made, and how the first water up was warm and the water after it was cold. Your sister coughs twice. Then it is quiet, and the ditch is going, and there is about an hour and a half. The camp gets up at 20 minutes to 4, and nobody rings anything. There is no bell on this ditchbank and no clock in your family, except the one in your father's pocket that has not run since August. What there is instead is about 200 people who all went to sleep at 9 o'clock thinking about the same hour. And something in a person wakes them. You hear it start north of you and come down. A car door. Then a tent flap. Then somebody dropping a stove lid. And somebody's boy talking too loud and getting hushed. Your mother is already out. She was up before any of it, and there is a match struck in the tent, and the lamp comes on low. The last 20 minutes go like this. Coffee. The grounds from last night boiled one more time. Thin and hot. A cup for each of the 3 of you, and nothing for anybody else. The bread from the second skillet, cold, wrapped in the flour sack. The 2 jugs, and the one that sat in the doorway with the wet sack around it is cold to the hand, and it will stay that way until 9. Shoes. Your father's cardboard is fresh from last night. Yours is fresh. Your mother does hers by the lamp in about a minute. The sacks come off the wire and go over shoulders. Folded. Because nobody puts a sack on properly until they are at the row. Your mother goes into the tent and looks at the little ones for about 10 seconds. Your sister is asleep and the cough has not come since midnight. Your brother is up. He gets up every time. She tells him what he already knows. The beans are in the pot with the lid on and the board on top. He is not to touch the stove. He is to keep them off the ditch. The woman next door is 40 feet away. He says yes, ma'am, to all of it. He looks at you once while she is saying it, and you look back, and neither of you does anything with your face. And that is the whole exchange. And both of you know what it is about. Then the 3 of you walk down to the track. It is somewhere around 3:30 in the morning, and it is cold. Real cold. Maybe 40 degrees. And the sky is completely clear. There is more sky over this valley at 4 in the morning than there is anywhere you have ever been. The stars go all the way down to the mountains on both sides. There are already people on the track. By 10 of 4 there are 140. They stand along both sides in a loose double line, about 200 feet long. And it is not a line for anything, and everybody stands in it anyway. Men in front, not by rule, just how it comes out. Nobody talks much. There is a low sound of people breathing and stamping and rubbing their hands. And somebody laughs once at something and it does not go anywhere. The man from the row over is here with his 2 grown sons, about 30 feet up on the other side. He nods at your father, and your father nods back. The woman from the Arkansas family is here with her 2 half-grown boys, and her husband is not, and she is standing very straight. The boy from the new tent is down at the far end by himself, and he does not know to have his hands out. You stand between your mother and your father, and you take your hands out of your pockets. You did that on purpose. Your father did it about 4 seconds before you did, and you saw him do it. You wait 25 minutes. At 4:15, there are headlights on the county road. The whole track turns and looks at them at the same time, and nobody says a word. Those headlights could be the labor truck. They could be a family coming in, looking for ground. At 4 in the morning, which happens, they could be the sheriff's car, which comes down this bank about once every 10 days and drives the length of it slow and goes back up, and has not stopped for anybody since your family got here. They could be a man who is lost. The lights come along the county road at maybe 30, and then they slow, and slow more, and swing. They come down onto the bank. Somebody about 40 feet up says it is the truck, quietly, and it goes down the line in about 6 seconds. And there is a change in the way 140 people are standing that you could see from 100 yards off in the dark. It is a truck, stake bed, high sides, canvas roped over the top of the cab. It comes down the track at a walk with the headlights on all of you and stops in the wide place. The driver does not get out. Another man does. He comes around from the passenger side and steps up onto the running board and hangs onto the mirror with one hand, and he has a flashlight in the other. He is not the man from the pickup last night. Somebody else. About 50, in a canvas coat. He says it is the Wasco place, and it is going to be a full day, 22 miles north. Your father does not move and does not look at your mother. And you know exactly what just happened, because there is not enough gasoline in that car to go to Wasco and back. And he found that out with everybody else, standing on a track in the dark, 9 seconds ago. Then the man says he can take 30. Nobody says anything. He works the flashlight along the line. It takes about 40 seconds, and there is nothing in it anybody could call fair or unfair, because there is no system in it at all. He takes the front of the line first, more or less. 6 or 8 men right there in front of the truck who have been standing since 3:30. He puts the light on hands. That is the first thing, and every person on that track knows it. And every single one of them has their hands out of their pockets and down at their sides. And that is why he is looking for a picker's hand, flat pads, no fingerprints, and there is no faking it, and it takes him 1/4 of a second per person. Then shoes, then faces, and the faces are last, and they are the least of it. He takes the man from the row over. He takes both grown sons, 9 seconds of light, and he does not ask any of them anything. He takes the woman from Arkansas. He does not take her 2 boys. And she gets up on the truck without one word and does not look back at them. He is somewhere around 22. He comes down to where the 3 of you are standing. The light goes on your father's hands. It stays there about a second. Then it comes up to his face for maybe half a second. And then it goes past him. And it goes onto your mother. And it goes down to her hands. And it stops. He says, "The woman." Your mother steps out. Then the light comes onto you and goes straight to your hands. And you have them out and open and turned a little so the pads are up. And you did that without thinking about it at all. He says, "And the girl, that is 26. He takes 4 more from up the line behind you, and then he says, "That is all," and steps down off the running board. Your father is standing exactly where he was. He has not moved anything. He is looking at the truck. You are 2 feet from him. There are men coming past both of you to get on, and the line is breaking up, and there is about 4 seconds in this. And you are standing there with your sack over your shoulder, not moving. You look at him. He does not look at you. He says one word. Go. You go. You get a hand up onto the bed, and somebody takes your arm, and you are on. And your mother is already up at the front end by the cab, and there is no way through to her. The tailgate goes up. It has a chain on one side, and the man in the canvas coat hooks it and hits it twice with the flat of his hand. 30 people standing in the bed of a stake truck in the dark, packed close enough that nobody needs to hold on. The truck backs. That is the part. It backs about 30 feet into the wide place to turn around. And backing swings the headlights. And the lights come around off the empty track and go across the whole ditch bank in one slow sweep. 60 tenths. The plank across the water, the brush wind breaks, the new canvas up at the middle that went over at dusk. Standing now, crooked, but standing. Somebody's wash, still on a line at 4 in the morning. A dog, up on its feet, watching the truck. And 110 people standing on that track with their hands still out of their pockets. They do not turn away from the lights. Every one of them stands there and takes it across the face. And then it is past, and they are dark again. You look for your father in it. You have about a second and a half of light, and you are looking at the place where he was standing. And there are 4 or 5 men there now, and they are all in coats, and they are all about the same size in the dark. You do not find him. The lights come off the bank and swing forward, and the truck straightens out and starts up the grade toward the county road. Your mother, up at the front end, has not turned around either. You watch the ditch bank until the truck gets up onto the road, and there is nothing to see by then. Only the shape of the willows against the sky, and one lamp somebody lit down at the low end after the truck went by. Then the road turns north and the whole thing goes out of sight behind you. The man next to you shifts his feet and says nothing. Somebody at the tailgate end coughs. The truck gets into high gear and the wind comes over the cab. And you put your chin down into your collar and hold your sack against your chest with both arms. And that is when it gets you. And it is not believing. It is that he had the hands. He has better hands than you have. He picked 241 pounds yesterday, and you picked 189. And the man with the flashlight had a quarter of a second, and he spent it on a 43-year-old man's face. The truck runs north on the county road in high gear and stays there. Nobody in that bed says anything for the first 10 minutes. 30 people standing shoulder to shoulder in a moving truck at 4:30 in the morning. And it is cold. And the wind comes over the cab. And everybody has their collar up and their back to it. It is the good kind of cold. The kind you know is going to be gone by 9. You are in the middle. You cannot see your mother. You can see the man from the row over. He is against the left side with one hand on the rail and his hat pulled down, and he is asleep, standing up. About half the people in this truck are asleep on their feet. You did not know a person could do that until the first month. Now you can do it yourself. And you do not do it this morning. The road runs between fields. It is dark, and you cannot see anything for a long while. And then you start to be able to. It comes slow. The sky over the mountains on the east goes from black to a gray you are not sure about. And you look at it a while, and it is definitely gray. And then it is gray with a color in it. Then you can see the shape of things going by. Vineyards first. The vines are on wires, and they go past in rows. And when the truck is moving and you look out at an angle, the rows open and close like a fan. Over and over. And you can watch that for a long time. Then cotton. It starts about 8 miles up, and it does not stop. It runs past on both sides of the road for miles. It is white by then, or getting white, coming up out of the gray. And it goes out flat from the shoulder to a long way off. And past that, there is more. And there is a line of trees somewhere that is a windbreak on somebody's place. And past that more again. All of it watered, every acre, every week, all summer, in a valley that gets almost no rain from May to October, and grows this anyway. Off canals and pumps, the sun is not up. The mountains on the east are a hard edge now, and the sky behind them is orange, and there is about 15 minutes in it. You turn around and look back. You can see a long way. The road runs straight, and the country is flat, and there is nothing on it to block anything. You cannot see the ditchbank. It is 11 miles behind, and it is nothing. A line of trees and a low place. And there is no reason it would be visible. What you can see is smoke. Not from your camp. Not from anywhere you could name. There is a haze lying low over the south end of the valley in the flat light. And it is a couple hundred cook fires and stoves in a couple dozen camps coming on at 4:30 in the morning. And it lies in a sheet about 20 feet off the ground because the air is cold and still. Your father is under that somewhere. He will have the stove going by now. Your brother is up and the little ones are not. And your father will make coffee out of the same grounds a 4th time and sit on a crate with it until it gets light. Then he will do something to the car. He will do something to the car all day, because there is a fan belt that is going to go before Christmas. And there is a slow leak that got patched last night. And there is a man who has to have something to do with his hands. Tonight he will ask your mother how the field was. Now here is what you do not know. Standing in this truck, you do not know what it pays. Nobody asked. Nobody on this bed asked the man in the canvas coat, and he did not say. And the reason nobody asked is that there is no version of this morning where somebody asks and then gets off the truck. It was 90 cents on the field you picked yesterday. Wasco could be 90. It could be 85. There are places in this county paying 80 this fall, and everybody in this truck has heard that. You will find out at the first scale, around 9. You do not know how many days. You do not know whether the truck comes back to that ditch bank tomorrow morning, or goes to a different bank, or does not come at all. You do not know whether there will be enough of it to put gasoline in the car so your father can go on his own. You do not know whether the man who owns that ground is going to come down and tell everybody to move, which happens at the end of a picking season, and which has happened to your family twice. You do not know if your tent will be where you left it tonight. It will be, and you do not know it. The sun comes up over the mountains at about 10 of 6. It comes up on a truck bed of 30 people and throws a long shadow of the truck out onto the cotton on the west side of the road. And the shadow runs alongside for a while with the heads of everybody standing in it. And then the road bends a little, and the shadow goes out into the field. The man from the row over wakes up and takes his hat off and puts it back on. Somebody down at the tailgate end says something and 2 people laugh. Your mother, up at the front end, has her back to the cab and her arms folded, and she is looking out over the side at nothing. And you can see the top of her head over the shoulder of the man in front of you. You got about 2 hours last night. An hour, maybe from 10 until the guitar quit, and another hour after 2. In pieces. That is a good night. That is better than the night after the pipe froze at Firebar, and better than the 4 nights in Arizona in the 2nd month when the baby was sick, and better than any night in the last week of August. 2 hours is enough to pick a full day on if you eat at noon, and you will eat at noon, because your mother has cold bread wrapped in a flour sack in her coat, and 2 jugs of water, and one of them is still cold. The truck slows for a section road and turns west off the highway. There is a field ahead about half a mile, with cars parked along the turn row, and a wagon standing in it, and a tripod set up at the near end with a scale hanging on it. And the sun is on all of it. And it is a 6:15 in the morning on a Wednesday in October in the state of California. You get your sack off your shoulder and shake it out and set the strap. You run the free end through the ring from underneath and back over itself and under the standing part, and you pull it down hard. It holds,